Africa has everything it needs to thrive. A population set to reach 2.5 billion by 2050, 60% of the world's solar resources, 30% of known transition minerals, and enough wind power to meet the continent's electricity needs 250 times over. And yet, 751 million Africans, roughly 57% of the continent's population, live in countries that spend more servicing external debt than they do on healthcare and education. Africa's debt servicing is now at its highest levels since the 2000s debt crisis. Annual debt service payments amount to 137.4% of the continent's climate investment needs, and the cost of borrowing for African countries remains significantly higher than for other developing regions. This is not bad luck. It is the result of a flawed system. The G20's common framework was meant to improve debt relief, expanding the negotiating table beyond traditional Paris Club creditors to include countries like China and Saudi Arabia, but it has fallen short. Negotiations drag, and private creditors get paid first and bear less cost. Climate risks are largely ignored, and middle-income countries are excluded entirely. As a result, countries exit restructuring still vulnerable and cycle back into crisis. Reform is both necessary and possible, and it starts with fixing the common framework. Countries entering restructuring should have an automatic 2-year debt service standstill, with no interest accruing. Private bondholders should be compelled to participate by advancing legislative reform in places such as New York and London, where 80% of sovereign debt is issued. Debt sustainability analyses should incorporate climate risks and realistic growth projections. Burden sharing must be fair, with creditors who charge higher premiums absorbing greater losses. The IMF could sell a fraction of its gold reserves, now worth over $4,000 per ounce, to protect multilateral creditors' debt relief efforts. Further, common framework eligibility should expand to include middle-income and emerging market economies. But structural reform alone is not enough. Democracy has to be part of the solution. Loan conditions must go before parliaments, and impact assessments must be made public. Citizens must have oversight over the obligations taken on in their name. Africa's recurring debt distress is a predictable outcome of a system designed without equity, transparency, or accountability at its core. Predictable means preventable, but only if the political will exists to act.